Alright everybody, welcome back to our Baldur's Gate 3 Let's Play. Super excited for this one because we are going into Act 2 today. In the last episode we fought Grim, the Forge Guardian, to get up all of our adamantine gear. We forged the heavy armor for Lae'zel, the medium armor for Shadowheart. We got this helmet. We leveled up, so we're level 6 now, everybody, and we are ready to jump into Act 2. And before we do that, we're just going to do a quick little long rest, just so that we can
How much further can I go?
just so we can be topped off before we go into Act 2. And I think before we move on, we're going to have a quick conversation with every single one of our companions that we've accumulated, and just to see if they have anything left before we leave. Start off with Colic over here.
Hey, soldier.
All right. So you and Mazora seem to know each other. How?
We were both part of Zariel's inner circle. Her by choice, me by force. In the grand scheme of things, I'm inconsequential to Zariel. Sure, I've got the engine, but I wasn't even her strongest fighter. She favored me like a child favors a captive pet. Mazora envied the attention, I suppose. I'm sure when Zariel gave her the order to hunt me down, Mazora was delighted.
Do you think she'll keep coming after you?
I don't know. You'd think she'd have more important things to do. Devils and their pride.
I can see why you're so keen to escape.
No kidding. The fighting, the chaos, the betrayal. It had the makings of a good stage show, but I did not want to be one of the players.
So in your expert opinion, what's the best way to kill a devil?
Depends on the type. Ice devils hate an inferno, but that's an easy one. Orthons love projectiles. What they don't love is getting their bombs lobbed right back in their faces. Demons, on the other hand, every demon is absolutely singular. You can't ever think you've got them typed out. Sharp instincts, sharp weapons, and a knack for improvisation. That's the only way to survive them. Anyway, what were we talking about?
She's so excitable. So about our tadpole powers.
You really did it, huh? Not worried about adding more illithid into the mix? Well, what can I say? You look fine, smell fine, seem fine. If you got a little boost from the tadpole, who am I to begrudge you? In fact, got any going spare?
There you go. If I did, would you accept it?
You know, I think I would. Bit surprising, but I'm starting to see the silver lining of this whole parasite situation.
Sure, I guess you can have one. I do, and it's all yours.
Thanks, soldier. I'll use it well. Promise.
Yeah, I hope I didn't just... I'm pretty sure we already used all of ours. Alright. We got Karlak. So we know that she's down for it. I think the only person not down for it is Shadowheart right now.
Good thing for Will that Karlak called a truce. A tiefling that mighty would shred him to pieces and burn the remains. Now,
You gotta do Will
what
like
did
that.
you need?
Sure, Will's a fine fighter. You know what happens if we don't find a cure?
Yes,
We kind of
in
already
great
know.
detail. It starts with a fever and memory loss. Then you start to hallucinate. Your hair falls out, and you bleed from every orifice. Your bones will change form. Your jaw will split to allow room for 4 great tentacles. All skin will turn to gore and be shed to reveal new flesh underneath. Then you have ceased to exist, and a mind flayer is born.
Try to suppress your rising panic.
That shiver betrays your fear. Suppress it. It is useless. We must find my kind and be rid of the parasite. It's as simple as that. The first symptoms should have long since started, though. That is what puzzles me.
You're worried we haven't changed? This is good news.
Yes, if you give it no further thought. But anomalies lead to surprises. Bad surprises. Besides, what hasn't happened may yet come to pass.
Alright. Gale.
Thank goodness that's all dealt with. The odds are stacked high enough against us already. No need to turn on each other.
I was wondering about that mighty lord you told me about in your story.
Ah, yes. Karsus. Karsus was perhaps the most powerful wizard that ever lived. The child who would be a god, the elves called him. And he tried. With a spell of his own devising, he endeavored to usurp in one fell swoop the power of the goddess of magic. Mistral, she was called then. Imagine what it must have felt like. To be a god. To know yourself, to be untouchable. To be mistaken. As Karsus aimed his spell at her, she began to unravel. And with her, the entire weave. Too late did he realize what he had unleashed. It would have been the end of everything had not Mistral sacrificed herself. The goddess of magic is all magic. By dying, the entire weave was lost, and the spell that challenged a god failed. It was the end of Mistral, the end of Karsus, and the end of an entire civilization. As the child who would be a god was turned to stone, his empire came crashing down around him. The floating cities of Netheril were no more. An event that came to be known as Karsus's folly.
Nothing good ever comes from mortals wanting to be gods.
Loving them has its side effects as well. Now, so many centuries later, I try to follow in the footsteps of Karsus. Not to destroy Mistra, but to prove my love for her. Try to control only a fraction of the magic that was unleashed that fateful day. I merely sought to return one tiny diamond to an imperfect crown. Gale's folly, one might call it. History, repetition. It's the way things go.
All right. A few more down here. See what Will has to say, and then Shadowheart, and then Halzen, and then... Why not? We'll even talk to Withers to see if he has anything new to say.
Well met.
What was it like being the son of a Grand Duke?
Not so enchanting as you'd think. The Portiers, the Caldwells, they were the blue bloods hosting the fancy balls and drinking from gold goblets. Father's the son of a blacksmith, born with barely a coin in the coffers. He made a name for himself among the Flaming Fist. Brave as Baldur and stubborn as a deep Rothay. Daring, outspoken, but hardly posh. I spent more time dueling with father than I did rubbing elbows with lords. Not to say I didn't develop a taste for good wine and the talent for courtly dance.
Now you're the Blade of Frontiers. Quite a change, don't you think?
Yes and no. Father taught me the 4 pillars of power. Courage, insight, strategy, justice. He reckoned I'd follow in his footsteps. First as a fist marshal, then as a duke. Vanquish evil, maintain order, save the world. But a duke makes bedfellows with more monsters than he slays. Father called it diplomacy. I called it hypocrisy. In the frontiers, there is no posturing, no diplomacy. I slay monsters, I don't consort with them. Even if I might look like one.
How does it feel to be a devil?
It's said that anyone who bathes in the river of blood emerges as one born anew. It's a lot like that, I imagine. I feel the weight of these horns on my head, curling upwards like a mammoth's tusks. I feel these ridges snaking down my neck, not to mention a few bumps and prongs in unmentionable places. But I haven't seen my reflection just yet. Be my mirror. What do you see?
A fiend who's been touched by the hells. I don't know what to make of it.
Then, I'll fight ever harder, be ever stronger, till my deeds eclipse my appearance. The people will see a curiosity, maybe even a beast hungry for their souls. But I will slay their monsters, keep them safe, and one day they will see the Blade of Frontiers again.
Quite valiant. So what do you think, what do you make of Raphael?
He brings to mind a story. The Devil with the Silver Tongue. An old fairy tale my father read to me. The kind with a hero, a villain, and a moral. A farmer made a deal with the devil, so the story goes. In exchange for the farmer's dearest fruit, the devil granted him a bottomless coin purse. The farmer's dearest fruit, naturally, was no apple nor peach, but his beloved daughter. We can learn a lot from fairy tales, don't you think?
Spare me the parables. I have no intention of bargaining with the likes of him.
That's because you still have hope. But when he becomes your last hope, remember this. He'll require of you only what you're least ready to part with, and then require more still. You might think you'd give up anything for a cure, but the devil won't take just anything. He'll take everything.
Wow. That is really deep. Will has really good, very, very, very good storytelling with his own personal experiences. Finally, what do you think of the illicit potential the Dream Visitor spoke of?
I think that unknowable powers come with unknowable consequences. I can't say I'm not curious, but once you take an illithid by the talon, there's no telling how deep into the abyss it might drag you.
Wonder why we're getting a disadvantage on this one. Well, you've seen how dangerous these absolute cultists are. We need the extra help.
I'm more than a bit wary, I admit. Still, I am the Frontier's avowed protector. New dangers require new skills to vanquish them. If the tadpole must be my curse, then let the powers it grants me be the Sword Coast's blessing. I will consume what I must to make it so.
I really like Will's character because, especially his interaction with our group and our character that we've established so far, because it's kind of like we're corrupting him. And something else that's really interesting about Will is that he's so noble and valiant. He's like the protector of the Swords Coast, the Blade of Frontiers, and yet he's not afraid to take sacrifices, to make sacrifices, to take chances and to take risks, and he puts himself into harm's way He's not being responsible with his own well-being. And it's like even through the action of him making a deal with the devil, it's kind of like, you know, he's literally selling his soul away. And so I don't know, I guess it's just like he's kind of living out the age-old question of like, it's like you live, well, like what is, or not the question, but it's kind of like the quote or saying where it's like you either die the hero, live long enough to become the villain. And that's kind of like Will's story, it seems so far, where like right now he's a valiant knight, he's the blade of frontiers, you know, the swordsman of the swords coast or whatever. And it's like, but how long is he going to be that valiant person? He's made deals with devils and he's not afraid to sacrifice more. And then now he's not afraid of using the illicit powers. Very, very interesting.
It seems like Will and Karlach will play nice from now on. Saves us having to pick sides.
I want to talk about all that's happened to us.
Fine. What's on your mind?
How am I holding up in your estimations?
How are you holding up? Don't be so modest. I can't remember the last time I met someone like you. Perhaps I never did. And never will again.
Yeah, well, you can't really remember anything, so I don't think that really counts. But thanks for the vote of confidence. Alza,
You wish to speak?
how are you faring out here at the camp?
With such stimulating company? Never better.
You're still faring well at camp, I hope.
With such stimulating company?
Okay, he just repeats the same thing. Alright, and then we have Withers.
Fate spins along as it should. Dost thou require a new ally? Or mayhaps a resurrection instead?
Okay. Not to be rude, but what are you?
There are many answers to that question. None are important.
Skeletons aren't supposed to be able to talk.
Correct.
Are you going to explain further?
No.
Attack. Dude, Withers is like the ultimate Giga Chad, actually. So if you guys have been wondering why I haven't been speaking to Volo, so I'll show you real quick. So when I talk to him, oh my good fellow, quite the cozy setup you have here. Right.
I'll just make myself comfortable. Thank you so much.
And then when you pick this option, I know this because we did this in my multiplayer playthrough with my my friends. He does this, and then he will offer to take the illithid out of your head, and then he just like stabs you in the eye, and and then when it doesn't work, he ends up just running away, and then you lose a vendor.
Quite the cozy setup.
I quite prefer having him here, even if we might talk to him later, but I like having him as an extra vendor. And I don't really want to get rid of him, because like I said in the co-op playthrough, he just ran away. He just straight up ran. And quite frankly, I don't really want that to happen. Excuse me. Where is my food bag? Yeah. Yeah, I don't really want him to run away, so we're just not, that's why we're not finishing that conversation with him. Okay. So we will go ahead and rest. See if anything happens. Very good. All right. So that ended up taking a lot more time than I thought it would, talking to everybody. I think what we're gonna do. I know I said that we were gonna go into Act 2 in this episode, but I think I'm actually more partial to kind of calling an early episode and just kind of like making this its own. So we'll like a conversation before we move on, conversation with everybody before we move on to Act 2.
What am I to
Cast
do?
this buff here. Alright, I think that's the buff, all of the buffs that we have normally. And I think, yeah, that's what we'll do, because I do want to have a full episode for the beginning of Act 2. I don't want to just have like 20 minutes of us talking to people in the camp and then going into Act 2 later. I feel like that's not a good intro to our Act 2 series. So we'll go ahead and call this one as a super fast episode. But this will be officially, you know, fingers crossed. Okay, no, this will definitely be, I can commit to that. This will 100% be the last episode of Act 1. Thank you guys so much for watching the video and all the way through to Act 1. If you've made it all the way here, thank you guys for staying with me all the way here. We're going to, I decided to take away the questions of at the end of the video. We're just going to do a standard outro. But we will have one more for this Act 1 series of episodes. And the last question is, what is your game of the year? You know, with all of the bangers that are coming out with Hogwarts Legacy, Baldur's Gate 3 here, Starfield, Jedi Survivor, Final Fantasy 16, Tears of the Kingdom. You know, I haven't played all of them, but what is your guys' game of the year predictions? I mean, even Spider-Man 2 is coming out next month or so. If you guys are Assassin's Creed fans, you know, Assassin's Creed Mirage. What a fantastic year for gaming, and we really are blessed. You know, we live in a blessed time for the gamers, especially this year. And then I know we have lots of games to look forward to in the future in the next year as well. But what is your game of the year? Mine is probably either Baldur's Gate 3 or Starfield. I'm loving the RPGs. But yeah, let me know down in the comments, and this will be the last question I ask you all. Thank you guys so much for watching again. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked, please leave a like, please comment, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in Act 2. Have a great day.